So we're off the coast of South America, and we're at the Georgetown coastline. I will be comparing active and passive margins and trying to prove my point as to why I think this margin that we're at now is a passive one. As you can already tell just from the eye levels, it's a very smooth transition from the continental shelf into the continental slope and then down towards the abyssal plain. So let's look at the numbers to prove my point. You can see here that the continental shelf extremely flat. The longitude and latitude for this location is 651.28.78 degrees north, and then 5802 58.71 degrees west. The elevation here at the starting port is -4 feet, and then the eye altitude is 344.84 miles. We can see that the continental shelf starting from the coastline is extremely flat. Looking at the diagram here, if I can do this, the distance is 72.2 miles from the coastline, and elevation gain is 163 feet, while the loss is -369 feet. So it seems pretty flat. And then we move on into the slope right here. The elevation loss is -7,742 feet. It's an extremely smooth loss. Very gradual decline. It's steady. It doesn't have a lot of slopes and edges and deep faults within it, which leads me to believe it is a passive passive margin, I should say. I already calculated the slope for this margin, which is a -0.9, which is a very steady decline. As you can tell here, the slope declines very nicely into the abyssal plain, which it continues to decline until it reaches this point, where it somewhat evens out. I should put it here at the end, where it starts to steadily decline into the abyssal plain. The elevation loss is -4,878 feet, while the gain is 804 feet. So this is a lot of terrain, but it's a very steady, as I said. Which to me, it seems like the numbers show that it is a very passive margin. It's also on the east coast, or rather on the northern end of South America, which is known for its passive margins, as you can tell. Very smooth continental shelves. Now let's move on to my active margin, which helps me to prove my point as to why I believe this is a passive margin. Let's head over to the coastline of Iquique. So let's pull up the elevation profile. So at the starting point of this margin, at this coastline, it is the longitude and latitude is 2104 22.14 south, 7133 47.74 west degrees west. The elevation is -15,583 feet, and the eye altitude is 137.91 miles. So here you could tell that from the continental shelf, it's a very rapid decline, which is similar to the passive, but then all of a sudden it drops and becomes very rocky, unsteady. It drops into the slope, the continental slope, and then it goes way below the sea line. The bottom of it being the deepest point of it, I should say, is negative 24,373 feet, which is pretty incredible, I should say. Very impressive. And then it has a rapid incline upwards. I already calculated the slope for this entire distance, which I would say would ultimately prove my point into why I think this is an active margin, as the slope for this is negative 1.1, much different than the passive margin, as I said before, is higher in the slopes range, and it looks much different, I should say. The distance, it's a little bit shorter than the passive margin, but I still believe that this is an active margin. It is on the south side, I should say, west side of South America, which is known for its active margins, such as the north side is known for its passive margins. It's also on a tectonically active side of the world, which is all of the west coast, leading up from South America towards North America. Same for the east coast, which is a passive, tectonically passive side of the world. And overall, that's why I believe this would be an active margin. It has a very sharp decline. It has rocky edges. The deepest point of it reaches far below, but has very rapid, unsteady inclines upwards towards the abyssal plain. The passive margin, I should summarize again. It's a very steady decline. It does not incline rapidly, such as the Iqua coastline does. If I'm pronouncing that correctly, I apologize. And that's why I believe this is a passive margin, and the other one is an active margin. Thank you for listening. I hope the calculated slopes will be able to prove my point as to why I believe this would be an active margin. It has much more activity, as you could tell from the charts alone. And I hope the numbers also prove my point in this argument, or in this expository debate, I should say. Anyways, thank you. Thanks for listening. Bye.